again, I'd like to welcome you to Perry's Victory and International Peace Memorial. My name is Sam. Where are you folks from? Sorry, before we get you started.
Ohio.
Ohio?
Fairview Park.
Okay, sounds good. But like I said, my name is Sam. So if you guys have any questions throughout the talk, feel free to ask at any time. First of all, we're going to talk a little bit about the war and why we're here. We're going to talk about the musket itself. This is an 1809 Springfield flintlock musket. And then we're actually going to fire it off after we talk about the uniform a little bit. So everybody wants to know why I look so good, right? Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's find out how much we know about the War of 1812. This is definitely a lesser-known war in our country's history, and I educated these three gentlemen earlier this morning, so if we run into some trouble, they will help us out for sure. So what do we know about the War of 1812?
It happened in 1812.
There we go. It happened in 1812, and 13, and 14. When did it end?
1815.
Good job. Okay. All right, why did we fight the War of 1812, folks?
They wanted to try to take over the British territory.
Okay.
I thought the British were taking sailors.
Okay, impressment?
Yep.
Westward expansion.
Westward expansion, absolutely. All right, everyone looks dazed and confused now, so we'll go ahead and clear up some mysteries here. You have to realize where we were at as a country, folks. We're only 30 years old. We have no military and a very small navy. Actually, Great Britain had more ships in their navy than we did cannons. Okay, we had about 165 gunboats, and we justified them as gunboats because they had at least one gun. So we don't have a very big navy. Also, we have a regular army that stands within a couple hundred. Remember, after the Revolutionary War, our founding fathers didn't want a strong standing army. A strong standing army was a threat to democracy, right? And Washington was very supportive of this idea of building a military in times of peace. However, a lot of the other founding fathers were not. One big component, the third president of the United States, Jefferson, was especially not fond of a large military. He was anti-war, anti-military, pro-enlightenment, and his vice president was Madison. Madison is the president during the War of 1812. He really has a big decision to make. And what's happening in the country at the time are really two things. First of all, we've got impressment of American citizens into the British Royal Navy. Great Britain has over 60,000 troops fighting on the ground and fighting Napoleon over the Napoleonic Wars. And like I said, they had 1,000 ships. They needed lots of sailors to run those ships. They didn't have the people to do so. Plus, a lot of people who were originally in the British Navy deserted and came to the United States because we treated our sailors better. Now, Great Britain gave their soldiers quite a bit more alcohol than the United States did, and there was a reason for it, folks. So we look at the difference, and really what was happening was Great Britain would pull up alongside a regular merchant ship, and they would actually take our sailors. They would come up and say, "What's your name?"
Oh, really? Bev.
"Oh, really, Bev? You speak English, so you must be from England, and we're going to take you now, and you're going to fight in our navy." All right? Thank you very much. Her Majesty will be very pleased with your service. All right? And sometimes, folks, they were really British people that deserted, that weren't naturalized citizens of the United States. But an estimate from 5,000 to 10,000 American citizens were actually enlisted in the British Royal Navy. Also, around 1,700 ships were taken from the United States as they traded back and forth. You know, Great Britain controlled the waters, and they didn't want us trading with France, their enemy at the time. They inspected our cargo, they taxed us very heavily, and we really, as a country, couldn't do much about it. We were just bullied around by Great Britain. Also, you have expansion into the west. We have the purchase of the Louisiana Purchase, and we've led some expeditions out into this area, and now we're going to continue to expand. The Native Americans in this area didn't really like that idea, and rightfully so. The land had been theirs for many, many years, and all of a sudden we've got white people coming in, and they're not very happy about it. So they have to decide whether they're going to try to appease us and get on our good side, or if they're going to help out and get on the good side of Great Britain. And that's what they do. They ally themselves with Great Britain. As an American settler coming out into this area, you see maybe a brown vest, a British gun in the Native Americans' hands. You see resources that they shouldn't have, but they're getting obviously via Canada. Obviously, this is going to spark some animosity toward the natives. Also, Tecumseh is starting to raise a confederacy of Native Americans that are going to at first peacefully handle the issues with the white settlers, and then eventually after this big tug-of-war match, it becomes very hostile between both the Americans and the Native Americans. And all of a sudden, war is on everybody's tongue, whether you were for it or against it. This is a very controversial war. New Englanders, who were doing all the trading, losing the sailors and losing the boats, were completely opposed to going to war. At no point during that time they lost about 10,000 sailors or 1,700 boats did they stop making a profit. But if we declare war on Great Britain, they are guaranteed they won't make a profit. Right? Westerners and Southerners are completely supportive of the war. So you have a 60-40 split in Congress, you have a very young Congress that is, get her done kind of attitude, and you've got a president who is really anti-military and anti-war. And he's going to ask Congress to declare war on June 18, 1812 against Great Britain. Imagine fighting the same country we fought our independence from 30 years earlier. What happens if you lose? They might not take back the land. They might not. They probably didn't want the land. Remember, we declared war on them. But definitely the system that we used to govern our people would have been altered, if not changed completely. And this is the reality. We have no military. So what do? We rely on state militias to fight our battles for us. So this is like all the men in this group, we all are going to take up arms and we're going to rally at City Hall and then we're going to go march. They're politically reliable, very politically reliable. The president calls up the governor's going to send people. Plus, people still have a lot of pride for their country at this time. However, you're also asking Iowans to fight in Ohio and defend the Ohio territory. Why do people from Iowa or Nebraska care about what's happening in Ohio? Plus, we make a major mistake when we start eyeing Canada. We focus on Canada, possibly grab some land, use it as bargaining chips, settle our issues, and we focus 3 big invasion plans. At that time, state militia was strictly national defense. They didn't have to cross international borders. So the regular army crosses the border, they wait for the regular militia to cross with them, and the regular militia won't do it. They turn and retreat. Ta-da! This is the beginning of the war for the United States. What do you think Madison has going on in his head right now? What do you have going on as an American citizen? Yeah. If Napoleon ends the war, if the British are able to beat Napoleon, which they do, they have 60,000 troops ready to go. They will be ready to go right on American soil. Yes? You had a question?
No, I was just going to offer the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your answer?
Well, the answer was President Madison was probably thinking, holy doo-doo, we've got a problem.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Does anybody ever wonder why we sparked diplomacy really quickly as the war heated up? I mean, we look at this, really, we were in not a good position. And that leads me to the weapon that I'm holding here. This is an 1809 replica of a Springfield musket. This is a flintlock musket here in a smooth bore, which means that it doesn't have the rifling that catches that bullet and spins it as well as the new guns do. But first of all, let's talk about this. This is a flintlock. Does anybody know what flint is? I mean, are you familiar with flintlock technology? It's a rock. It's a rock. So today, we run most of our things by computer chips, right? This thing is powered by a rock. Yeah, Stone Age, there we go. This thing is as reliable as the rock you use to run it. How many of you like to trust a rock?
Is that similar to black powder?
Yes, it is. Yeah, black powder. Absolutely. Yep. So what we do here is we've got this nice shiny flint here, which is a rock, that's going to strike this piece of metal, this steel here. And you've all started a campfire or seen somebody do it, watched Survivor or something like that. And you see how this works. Pretty much what happens is the soldier would take a cartridge out of his cartridge box here, he would rip off the top and pour a little bit of powder into this pan. He would then close the steel, lower his weapon, and then begin loading the rest of the black powder down into that. This is a 69 caliber barrel, and it would be loaded with a 65 caliber ball, slightly smaller than the diameter of the barrel. They'd stuff it down there with a ramrod, they'd have that pan closed, they'd cock back, and then when they pull the trigger, you get sparks, right? Those sparks fall into that pan and ignite that powder. Within that pan is a little dinky vent hole. That flame comes into the barrel and ignites the rest of the charge. Right? It's very simple technology. However, completely unreliable. Completely unreliable. If it's windy out, your powder probably won't stay in your pan. If it's humid or raining, the powder gets wet and it's not going to ignite. If you're shooting for several times and it gets gummed up in there, it's not going to ignite. Sometimes you can do everything just right and this thing still won't fire. Accurately, 50 to 75 yards is your best shot. Alright? You can see the whites of your enemy's eyes at that point, folks. Alright? Yeah, absolutely. So you are looking at this weapon and you're trying to figure out how it works, and immediately it flashes back to the Patriot. You know, has everybody seen the Patriot with Mel Gibson?
Oh.
And they stand in these long lines and they all fire together. And you think, what idiots. You know, why are they standing in lines firing at each other? But it's because of the weapon they're using. We're using the same weapons we fought with during the Revolutionary War. You know, it really wasn't until right at the end of the War of 1812 and towards the Civil War that we started getting going on our weaponry over here. But pretty much, this is a glorified spitwad. Really, that's all it is. Everybody knows what a spitwad is, right? Sometimes people don't. Do you know what a spitwad is? All right, you can try this at dinner
I never
today.
got into that.
All right, so tonight when you go out to eat and the waitress is walking by, take a little bit of paper off your napkin or your straw wrapper and wad it all up, get it all goopy with spit, and then stick it at the end of your straw and go, spit it out and watch it fall. All right? Yeah, you're welcome. Detention's a lot of fun. Anyway.
He doesn't need any help with that.
But really, that's how this weapon is used. It is a glorified spitwad. You know, there's no rifling, no grooves to catch that bullet to help it spin accurately. So it just kind of goes ting, 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 boom, and lugs out. So if I'm aiming at you, I probably am going to hit you. All right? You're having a great day, you're having an awful day, and I'm just glad it fired. I mean, truly. And so what they did to use this weapon effectively is that we got in large lines. Okay, you put 100, 200 people, and you triple stack them. You put people side by side and have another person shooting over a shoulder, and you all fire at the same time. Because it doesn't matter. Sometimes, even in parts of the Revolutionary War leading up, they didn't even say aim, they said level. Because you don't aim with these things, because it doesn't matter where you're aiming. But if you all keep your barrels level at the same height, and everyone shoots at the same time, an entire wall of lead will go flying down the battlefield, which is a lot more effective than one here and there that's probably not going to shoot anybody anyway, right? And because we're using this technology that's not very accurate, not very reliable, and we all have to stand on the battlefield right next to each other within 75 to 50 yards, we get a look good doing it. All right?